I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Yes, I've walked through the Chucky house. Yes, I hated it, but yes, Halloween Horror Nights 2023 is the best year since 2019. I wanted to wait a few weeks before making a video to fully experience the event. I used to be a scare actor, so I know it takes a few weeks to fully get comfortable at your scare spot. Although first impression videos are fun to watch, it's not a fair way to look at the event, as later in the season the actors are more accustomed to their roles, making for a much better experience. I started my HHN 32 journey during opening weekend. I didn't go. However, I did purchase my very expensive Frequent Fear Pass. This was a big jump from my previous year's $130 Rush of Fear Pass, so I was a bit skeptical when purchasing the pass as I was not a big fan of the past 2 years. But decided to bite the bullet anyway. The total ended up being around $250 after taxes. Insane, but hey, at least I get to go in October this year. When I say experience everything, I'm going to be excluding the Death Theaters and Megan. I personally only go during the last few hours on weeknights, which is why a lot of my clips aren't filmed during the event. I promise I went this year. Here's a clip from one of the nights for proof. So the Death Theaters are usually done for the night when I'm there, and Megan just seems to be random at times. I have houses to get to, so I'm not going to go search for a dance act. I'm sorry, I'm sure it's great. Let's start with the scare zones. The only real notable one this year is Vamp 69 Summer of Blood, which was preceded by Vamp 85 New Year's Eve in 2018. And that one was preceded by Vamp 55 in 2016. Huge HHN lore here. I briefly remember Vamp 85 and I did enjoy it, but I don't remember Vamp 55 at all, even though that was my first HHN year. Vamp 69 is a lot of fun. From the music to the amazing synergy of all the zone actors, I absolutely love it. If you're going to spend time in a zone, I highly recommend taking your time in this one. The rest of the scare zones, however, I found them to be pretty weak. I think Universal's strong point is the houses and they lack in the zones. This has nothing to do with the scare actors in them, they are all doing amazing. There is just a lot more scenic scares where the monsters stare at you creepily for theming, rather than in-your-face jump scares that I prefer. Shipyard 32 Horrors Unhinged is growing on me, but I still don't know where Dr. Oddfellow's collection of horror is located. Is that the 5-second Halloween Horror Night sign you walk through at the start? Is that the zone? I don't know. Let's briefly talk about the Tribute Store. With the growing popularity of the event, I hate walking through it. The store is great, always a huge Tribute Store fan, but during HHN, yeah, no, it's like walking through what people who have never been to Black Friday before think it's like. It's a total madhouse. However, I think there are two possible ways to fix this issue. With the opening of a second Tribute Store location in the Hollywood section of the park, it would be interesting to see 2 Tribute HHN stores, and it would help break out the rush of people in the main Tribute Store. But a more likely solution is to have a virtual queue for the Tribute Store. Hold your pitchforks, I know virtual queues are not perfect, but this would allow for a better experience to fully look around and shop without having to fight your way through everyone in the store. Plus, it's not like majority of the merch isn't in the main Universal gift shop in City Walk 1 anyway. Speaking of overcrowding, we do need to talk about the show. Halloween Nightmare Fuel Revenge Dream. It's good. If you like dancing and magic shows, you'll have a great time. However, this show was packed to the brim, and the Fear Factor live stage sheets are not comfortable at all. The first night I attempted to see the show, there was a line all the way up to the Oddfellow house at 11 p.m. for the 12:30 a.m. showing on a Thursday night in September. I did manage to see the show the following Wednesday at 11 p.m. I arrived at around 10:45 and managed to get a seat towards the side. So not ideal seating, but I had no issues watching the show. Ironically, the magic at the start of the show was way more impressive than the magic at the end. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you like Nightmare Fuel, you'll enjoy this, and I do recommend seeing it. I just personally wouldn't wait in line, and I doubt I'll see it again. The seats were just way too painful to sit for an almost 30-minute show. Houses, the reason why we actually go to these types of events. I hated HHN 2021 and 2022 was okay at best. I know these are unpopular opinions, especially to newer Horror Nights fans, but the descarification of Horror Nights is real. I don't really find Horror Nights scary, this isn't to come off as high and mighty, but I go to this event for the set designs and the creative team. really hit the mark this year. The order I will be going through the houses isn't a hard ranking. I plan to do that at the end of the season. So if you haven't already, consider hitting the subscribe button. I make weekly video essays on theme parks, and I plan to post my final house rankings after the end of the event on the community tab. Who knows, maybe even a ranking video as well. Back to the houses. Let's start out with my current second worst, The Last of Us. Maybe I need a second run, but I didn't like it, so my walkthrough was a bit confusing at best. I think if I understood the plot, it would have been more enjoyable, but I didn't have the time to play before the event started this year. Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins. Dr. Oddfellow is an amazing icon, but the house is alright. At first I hated the house, as carnival, scary houses aren't really my thing. Not in a scary way, I just find them really boring, but I think my first walkthrough was just bad. I returned to the house a week later and had a much better walkthrough. In fact, my initial rating was a 3 out of 10, but now it's currently a 5 out of 10. I noticed a lot more smaller details in my second walkthrough that really made the house more enjoyable. Dueling Dragons Choose Thy Fate. This house was very underwhelming. I was beyond hyped for this house. Taking a defunct Universal ride and making it into a house is the fan service I like to see. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a letdown. The Choose Thy Fate part was very short, and I was really hoping for that aspect of the house to be way more elaborate. Yeti Campground Kills. Do you like camp horror movies? If yes, you'll like this house. If no, it's alright. This is a follow-up to Yeti Terror of the Yukon, but to what I assume is in the summer. This is a middle-of-the-road house for me. If the line is short, I'll go through it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do a walkthrough. Universal Monsters Unmasked. It's a classic monsters house. These tend to be pretty solid. I really enjoyed the final scare of the house. This year's monsters are Dr. Jelky and Mr. Hyde, the Phantom of the Opera, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and the Invisible Man. Stranger Things 4, also known as the house with a 3-hour wait. I managed to wait only 12 minutes on a 50-minute posted wait time on a Sunday night at 1:30 a.m. Power Hour is real. I don't think I would ever wait an hour for this house, but it was way better than I expected. The house by far has the best costuming. Vecna looks absolutely sick. So if you like Stranger Things, I recommend going through it. Darkest Deal. I originally didn't care for this house. When I first walked through the house, I jumped in excitement because it instantly reminded me of Children of the Corn. Side note, if you haven't seen Children of the Corn, please watch it and tell me the first scene in The Darkest Deal does not remind you of it. After my first walkthrough, I was a bit confused on what was going on in the house, but after going through it a few times, it just gets better and better. Out of all the original houses, this has the best story. You really feel like you're watching a movie in front of you. Don't skip this one. The Exorcist Believer. This by far is the darkest house, so try to do this later in the night if you hate walking out of houses and having your eyes not adjust. I really like this house. It's not my current number one, but it's up there. I was originally skeptical of an IP house on a movie that isn't out yet, but this definitely is the best IP house of the year. Before we get into the worst and best houses so far this year, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like. It takes only 2 seconds and it supports the channel greatly. Worst house. Chucky Ultimate Kill Count. It's very ironic how the most hyped IP of this year's event has the worst house. Everyone at this event is wearing Chucky merch. This is not an exaggeration. There has been a lot of discourse on this house, and I do agree with a lot of the talking points, but this isn't the worst Horror Nights house ever. However, there are a few things that just really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't want to spoil, but let's just say the show plays a big role in the house, literally. If you've walked through, you'll understand what I mean. Another small thing that isn't really a spoiler, but in the house, I saw some scare actors wearing the Chucky merchandise you can buy at the event. I know fans of this house are saying it's supposed to be bad on purpose and Chucky is mad about it, but this house just felt like an advertisement for the show and the merchandise. The best house. Blood Moon Dark Offerings. This is one of those houses I have to go walk through every single time I go to Horror Nights this year. I initially gave this a 9 out of 10, but I think I can give it a 10. This house reminds me of Skyrim a little bit, but that's not why it's my favorite. The scare styles remind me of that Us house back in 2019, and so far, Us is the best Horror Nights house I've personally walked through. When I first walked through Blood Moon, I instantly knew this house was going to be a top one for me, and every run through so far has been great. I love the church scene. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it, but please do not skip this house. It usually has a short line at the end of the night, and I think it's super underrated. Thank you so much for watching this video. I plan to make more research focused video essays in the future, similar to my last video about the history of the plot of land the Velocicoaster is currently located on. Highly recommend giving it a watch. Bye.